सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः उकारस्वन्धकारो वैरुकारस्तन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुविद्यविधीयते ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं श्रीभगवानुवाच यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वं च मयि पश्यति तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि स च मे न प्रणश्यति एतस्य आत्म एकत्वदर्शनस्य फलम् उच्यते. In the morning, in the Kaishiki, that Upanishad session, there was one thing mentioned, that the Vakya Aham Brahmasmi, the phala that is mentioned was that Vamadeva seeing I am the Surya and all that. So generally, the Jnana Palam is Sarvatma Bhava. So here also, the reason I was saying that is, even here, that is how Shankaracharya introduces this verse. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami. He says, etasya atma ekatva darshanasya phalam uchyate. So the phalam, the result of the darshana, the brahmajnanam is sarvatma bhava. Okay, that's why I was telling in the morning session that the fruit of this jnanam is not to remove oneself. See, in a sense, you create a distance between problem and yourself by seeing the root of, so the object of the mental activity is so like the tree consciousness. If you are, there is a tree jnana. So the object of the knowledge is tree, but the root of the knowledge is your swarupa. So that creates that distance. But then at the same time, since you are seeing the vritti is non-separate from the consciousness, so the sarvatma bhava is what you get from this. And only when you gain the sarvatma bhava, the shanti happens. Otherwise, there is always a distance between you and something else. So that can't be considered as the moksha. Okay, moksha is if you see you in everything. So here, when Bhagavan says, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati, that mam is not only Bhagavan, it is you also. You see in your Atma all that is here, and all that is here is in you, and you pervade everything. It means you are everything. So that is a jnanam here. Okay. And na pranashyami, I think we already saw that. The pranashyami, Bhagavan Bhashikara also translates it as sacha vidwan mama vasudevasya na pranashyati na parokshi bhavati. Okay, he is, so the paroksha, Bhagavan is never paroksha. Atma is nitya paroksham, we say. Okay. Paroksham is something which is distant from you, right, beyond your sight, but that which you are is called a nitya paroksha atma. So therefore, for Bhagavan also you are nitya paroksham, and for you also Bhagavan is nitya paroksha. Okay, and swatma hi atmanah priyaha eva bhavati. That also we saw why aham sacha mama priyaha, Bhagavan says. Okay, I think we saw this, we went to the next one, but I thought I'll just bring those 2 points. Okay. सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मां भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते. Okay. This also we saw briefly. I think we stopped here. The Jivan Mukta Lakshana. Okay, for a Jivan Mukta, the person, whatever the person is doing, irrespective of that particular activity, he is in Bhagavan. Okay. Now the only question that comes here is, will there be Yateshta Acharana? Okay, in the sense, will the person, because there is no dharma applicable to that person anymore. Ko vidhi ko nishedaha, it says, because the Shastra also is no more applicable to the person because he is already a jnani. There is a dharma, whatever applies to the person who is a, who has a kartrutvam, bhoktritvam, is not applicable to a jnani because the jnani is no more karta or bhokta. So does that mean the person will have a behavior which is not commensurate to dharma? Okay. So that is where there is usually a question. Okay. So there are two ways to look at it. One, before he became a jnani, he qualified himself to a jnani because he was in dharma. Okay, and it has already become a swabhavika for him. So he will only continue. So that is one aspect. The other way to look at this is jnani, see, only a limited ego, which is uncontented and which has so much of hurt and guilt and pain, will want to accomplish things somehow, right? When one is a true jnani, see, we are talking about a true jnani, right? Not somebody who is a non-jnani. If the person has truly realized, then the person has to be contented. So why would that person cut corners to do yadeshtajarana, right? But then you generally don't restrict, because jnani, child and Bhagavan are generally, all of them are called as unmatta haiva, like mad people, because there is no cause effect for them. They are just under the sky, right? So they just behave. Even Ishvara is called like, right? So there is a unmatta panchashati which is written. Bhagavan is unmatta, pitta peresudi is sing, right? So Bhagavan, you can't, there is no order or structure to how the world functions, right? Maybe there is an order, but we don't see it. So Bhagavan, why he does something, we don't know. That's why Sri Krishna also, he didn't come under any stipulations, right, in Mahabharata. See, if you actually look at it from normal parlance, whatever Sri Krishna did during Yuddha, half the things you can't even accept, right? How he killed Dronacharya, see, all these things, because he is Bhagavan, right? For him, Dharma Stapana is what it is, right? So he wants certain thing for the Jagat. So
you say there is no order, there has to be order. This whole universe is based on some kind of order.
We'll discuss in the night.
8 o'clock. Satsang question.
Yeah.
Now no questions.
So there is a niyati. Bhagavan is in the form of niyati. But that's why I said there is a niyati. Okay. But as an observer, if you look at it, the causality cannot be established for many things. Even if you ask why was the creation, then what will you say? Right? Finally, we say there is no creation. That's a different thing. But if you say Leela, what is the order? Right? Why? See, think of it. No, we say karma phala is the cause of anything. If let's say there was a first creation, how did the first jivatmas get any punya papa? So there is no. So then you have to say it is an infinite. It never started. That's how we have to say. Then only there is a karma. So any cycle, everything looks like a cycle only, because see, there is nothing which you can say started, whether it is time or space or world or objects or anything. So if you, let's say, how far will you go? Let's say you travel in space, you keep going, where will you end? We can't even imagine that, right? See, some of the stars we are seeing today, they say the lights travel at such a speed, right? So many light years, and then that light what you are seeing is probably emanated there some thousands of years ago, even before Shankaracharya was here. That is the light you are seeing today as a star, right? So we don't even know what is beyond that also. So I think That's why, so when things, so Bhagavan we can't measure. So what is Bhagavan? How? So that is why we are saying, we don't understand. So we are saying he is Unmattaha. Maybe there is a logic, right? But that is how he is seen. Bhagavan is seen that way, right? So that's why Shiva is called Pitta. So he was asked to give a story why he was called Pitta and all that. But actually he is Unmattaha. Jnani also is the same. You can't, he is not bound. Jnani is, he or she is not bound because ko vidihi ko nishedha. Okay. So therefore, what we are saying is that we were talking about Sarvata Vartamanopi Sayogi Mai Vartade. So whatever the person does, Sarva Prakarehi Vartamanahapi Samyak Darshi Yogi Mai Vaishnave Parame Pade Vartate. He is always in the same Paramapada. The Tadvishnu of Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surya. The Vishnu Padam is Brahma only. Surupa only is called Vishnu Padam. Padyate iti Padam. Okay. Where you go and rest, that is Vishnu Padam. Right? But they put Vaishnavas, you know how they do it. Right? So here, Bhagavan, why I am saying this, Bhashyakara himself says, right? Samyak Darshi means a Jnani who is a yogi, Mai Vaishnave Parame Pade Vartate. So actually Shankaracharya calls Bhagavan as Vishnu only everywhere, right from Narayana Paravyaktat till the end. Anywhere he wants to call Sri Krishna as Ishvara, he uses the term Vaishnava only. So that's why Adi Shankara is generally seen as a great Vaishnava also. See, for us there is no difference between Shiva and Vishnu. But for the benefit of other Vaishnavas who think Shankaracharya is a Shaivite, they actually, because they are Vaishnavas, they call Smartas and Advaitis as Shaivites. I have seen most of the Vaishnavites calling us as Shaivites. We are not Shaivites, right? We are Smartas. For us, there is no Veda. This Rameshwara, I don't know, was it Jaishankarji was talking about it, right? That was told by Sringeri Acharya only. So for us, Ramascha aso Ishwarascha, so it's the same. Right? So here Bhashyakara says Vaishnave Parame Pade, so that is the Paramapada which is your Swarupa. Tasmin eva vartate nitya muktaha eva. So the person who is residing in Vishnu Pada is a mukta person. Okay. Okay. Na moksham prati kenachit pratipathyate ityartha. So he is unobstructed for moksha. Kincha nyate atmaupamyena sarvatra. Samam pashyati yorjuna. Sukham va yadi va dukkham. Sayogi paramo mataha. Hey Arjuna, yaha sarvatra sukham va yadi va dukkham atma aupamyena samam pashyati saha yogi paramaha mataha. Hey Arjuna, the one sarvatra everywhere, sukham va yadi va dukkham. So whether it is pain or pleasure or pain, Atma Upamyena, taking one as the basis. So this is little difficult to understand, but we will see. Okay. Samam Pashyati Saha. Okay, the one who sees it as same, that person, that yogi Paramaha, he is regarded as the most exalted yogi. So this what is this taking one as example? Okay, there are two interpretations that is given here. Let's see what Acharya is saying. Atma upamyena atma swayameva upamiyate anaya. The person considers one's own experience as an example when looking at sukha and dukkha for others also. That is how he takes. Okay, that is the basic. So which is same as what Vyasa is saying, right? So like what you don't want others to do to you, you don't do to others, kind of thing, right? Here he is saying, telling the same thing. When you are considering sukha and dukkha for others, just see how you will react when it is for you. Okay. Swayameva upamiyate anaya iti upama tasyaha upamayaha bhavaha upamyam Tena Atma Upamyena, sorry for reading Bhashya here because this verse is little difficult to understand, so better just follow Acharya here. Sarvatra Sarvabhuteshu Samam Turyam Pashyati Yorjuna Sacha Kim Samam Pashyati iti uchyate Yata Mama Sukham Ittam Tata Sarva Praninam Sukham Anukulam. Okay, so he says Yata Mama Sukham Ishtam. Just like how for me being Sukha is what I like. Okay. Tata Sarva Praninam eva. So for every prani, not even other human beings, he is saying for every prani, Sukham is what is Ishtam. Okay. Yediva Yaccha Dukkam Mama Pratikulam Anishtam Yata Tata Sarva Praninam Dukkam Anishtam Pratikulam iti Eva Atma Upamyena Sukha Dukkhe Anukula Pratikule Tulyataya Sarva Bhuteshu Samam Pashyati Na Kasyachit Pratikulam Acharati Ahimsakaha Ityarthaha. Okay, so therefore, so summary is the one who is a jnani sees that Sukham is what is sought by every prani, like one does. Similarly, Dukkham is something that no prani wants. So that person becomes Ahimsakaha. That is why the Sannyasi Lakshanam also is Ahimsa only. Ahimsa is the main thing. Abhayam Sarva Bhuteshu, the whole vow that they take is I become the refuge for any living being. That is how a sannyasi has to be. Okay. In fact, Swamiji doesn't even beat the mosquito. And he used to do this and then advise others also that no, just I heard. So he once said, I heard only pregnant mosquitoes will bite because they need blood. So you shouldn't beat them. So he used to create some guilt in people. So ahimsa is a big thing, right? So what I was trying to say, so this is one artha. Swamiji actually takes one more meaning. Let's just first see some of the other points he brings out. Okay. Okay. So one thing he says, why would somebody do dukkha something for others? So that all unbecoming actions stem from the insecure ego. Okay. And he says no ego is secure. So the whole human problem is about ahankara only. Right? So long as I consider myself to be a limited ego, which is based on your ignorance, because actually since your swarupa is infinite, you may have a body, right? But in spite of it, the body is also an object of your experience. Like this remote is an object of your experience, we have seen that many times. So, but then the identity that I am this limited is where the ego comes, which is the ahankara, right? And that is where that is based on the ignorance. And that ego is what builds up all these psychological issues and insecurity and all that. And this insecurity based on which only you actually start hurting and cutting corners so that it can become more and more bloated. Okay, that is how the whole thing functions. So the himsa happens, okay, only when this ego is functioning, right? Then what happens in the jnani? Does the jnani have ego or not? Even jnani has to say, I am going to teach the class today, right? Then what is that ego, right? That is what is called badita anuvritti. Okay, that ahankara is baditam, means it is falsified. But it continues in the sense, for operational purposes you still use it. But the truth of that ego is already falsified. That is called badita anuvritti. Okay. So when there is a samyak darshana nishta of somebody, then that ego doesn't create any ahimsa, because that is purely for operating purposes, the person is owning it, right? And beyond that it is of no function. Okay. That is one thing he says. And then he brings a second interpretation. Okay, the sukham va yadiva dukkham, because that va shabda is used and atma upamyena. So how he takes the second interpretation is purely Swamiji's interpretation, not what Shankaracharya says. This upama, he does upama of atma with dukkham and atma with sukham. Okay, so when considering the status of atma, for a jnani, this sukham and dukkham becomes insignificant. So atma upamyena is not like this limited atma looking at other beings. Instead, he says this, you can use the va in a way that the Paratma that you are, because he knows that he is a Paratma. So the situations of Sukham and Dukkham that comes to him is nothing as compared to the Swarupa. So if you can also take that Atma Upamyena in that sense is what Swamiji says. Okay? So this is an alternate interpretation. Okay? And for that he actually quotes a second chapter verse Apuryamana Machala Pratishtam Samudramapah Pravishanti Yadvat Tadvat Kamayam Pravishanti Sarve Shashanti Mapnoti Na Kama Kami. There is one verse in second chapter. What it means is when there is ocean, the ocean does not increase its level just because some river comes, water comes there, right? Nor because in 1 year the river doesn't have water, the ocean level goes down. Whereas a lake, it's a different story, right? One year there is a river, rain anyway, it is flooded, another year it completely dries out. So the Kamakami is like this lake, and Jnani is like a ocean. For the Jnani, so this Bhagavan says, right? For a Jnani, a water coming in, water not coming in doesn't make a difference. So he uses that for this shloka. Because he is a Jnani, the Sukham or Dukkham is like the water coming in or going out, right? It doesn't disturb him because Atma is too big for the person to actually be disturbed by these things. Okay, so that is another interpretation. Actually, it's a very interesting interpretation, right? He does. Okay. Okay. Let's move to the next one. Then, now I think Bhagavan has more or less completed Dhyana Yoga. Okay, so he was going to start the chariot. Then Arjuna comes and now asks the question. Yoyam Arjuna Uvacha Yoyam Yogastvaya Proktaha Samyena Madhusudana Etasyaham na pashyami Chanchalatva sthitim stiram. Okay. Bhagavan Bhashikara Shankaracharya introduces this verse saying Etasya Yatoktasya Samyak Darshana Lakshanasya Yogasya Dukkha Sampadyatam Alakshya Shushrushuhu Dhruvam Tat Prapti Upayam. Okay. So Arjuna Uvacha. So why is Arjuna asking this question? He connects saying this whatever Samyak Darshana Lakshana, this Surupa Samyak Darshana means this Jnanam. Okay, Jnana Lakshanam, this Yogam, this Dhyana, which has been prescribed for this Jnanam, seems to be difficult to gain. Dukkha Sampadyatam. So you are saying so many things. Things which can be accomplished is Suchau Deshe, Pratishtapya, Siramasanam, all that is fine. Right? You can get a clean place. You can go to Anaikatti. You can sit straight. Till this part it is okay. But after that everything looks difficult, right? So that's why he says Dukkha Sampadyatam Alakshya Shushrushuhu Dhruvam. So Prapti Upayam he asks, how am I going to gain that? Okay, that is what is the question. So Yoyam, so Arjuna Uvacha, He Madhusudana, Tvaya Samyena Ayam Yogaha Proktaha. Okay, you have said as this is the sameness and all that, fine. But Etasya Stiram Stitim Chanchalatvat Aham Na Pashyami. Okay, Hey Madhusudana. So Madhusudana, there are two meanings again. Okay, given by Acharyas themselves. One is anyway Bhagavan killed Madhukaitaba, right? So that Rakshasa was killed. So it is Madhusudana. Another Madhu is also means honey. Honey represents your ahankara because everybody likes it. Okay, one's own ahankara is something is like honey for oneself. And Bhagavan is the one who destroys that, so he is called Madhusudana. Okay, Shankaracharya himself gives that somewhere. Okay, so Madhusudana, Tvaya Samyena. So Samyam means sameness, right? You have to be in that for a stretch of time, right? So and also Samam Brahma Visa, right? By you, Ayam Yogaha, this yoga you have spoken about, okay? Etasya, this of this Tiram, steady Stitim, okay? Chanchalatvat So because I am not able, due to agitation, which is my mind, I am not able to see it. Okay. So basically, Arjuna said this yoga that you have talked about as sameness, I do not see its steady vision due to agitation. Okay. See, the agitation here is mind. There is no other agitation. Right? Mind has, it's not that mind has agitation. Agitation is mind. Okay, because the mind has to switch from one to another. We have been seeing that. Otherwise, you see one tree. Swamiji says you see one tree, you travel 10 kilometers, you will be only seeing the same tree. Okay, so the mind has to move, then only it is mind, right? So therefore, agitation itself is the nature of the mind. Okay. So now there is a so it's very interestingly Bhagavan accepts this. Okay, because the mind doesn't seem to have any root, right? It is not rooted in anything. He says, in fact, here sthitim stiram. So etasya sthitim stiram sthitim chanchalatvat na pashyami. Okay, so it is it is not rooted in something. It is all the time shaking, right? Okay, so there are two things he says. So let's see the bhashya here. Okay. Because in Swamiji's thing is not much there. Etasya yogasya aham na pashyami na upalabhe chanchalatvat manasaha kim stiram achalam sthitim prasiddham etat. Okay. Bhashyakara also doesn't say anything beyond that. He says because the mind is chanchalam, agitated, I am not able to see how to gain this. But in the next verse actually he goes a little further. He says chanchalam himana krishna
Chanchalam himana krishna
pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. So, Hey Krishna, he manaha chanchalam pramati balavat dridham aham tasya nigraham vayoho iva sudushkaram manye. So he is defining the nature of mind in further detail. He invokes his name by Sri Krishna, right? So Bhashyakara uses this context to define the word Krishna. Okay, he says Krishna iti. Okay, Krishatehe vilekhanarthasya rupam. What is that root Krisha is used in what sense he says, and defines bhakta jana papadi dosha akarshanat Krishna. Okay, he says the one who removes, akarshati here means who removes all the limitations. What kind of limitation is dosha? Okay, so the one who removes the limitations of what sins, papa and other limitations for the bhakta jana, that kind of a person is called Krishna. Okay, the word Krishna. Because Akarshanat also we say Krishna, the one who attracts. Okay. But here, because the one who removes dosha of the bhaktas is called as Krishna. Okay. Then here he uses pramati. Okay, pramati is translated here as tyrant. Okay, the mind is so powerful, right? That's why the balavat dridham, it is well rooted. Okay, so it is chanchalatvam is well rooted. Aham tasya nigraham vayoho iva dushkaram manye. I see the mind to control it is like controlling the wind, right? I can't catch the wind in my hand. So it is that kind of thing, because mind doesn't come under your control, right? There are two types. One, normal time is fine, right? But sometimes mind takes over, right? Your senses, what you say also you have no control, whether when you are angry or sad or whatever. And so even your cultural things you let go sometimes, right? You yourself don't know why you said some things, right? So it is such a state, right? So it doesn't seem to work in a certain this thing. And you can't also advise people, don't get angry. That advice is a waste because nobody has control over this, nor does one intentionally want to get angry also, right? Even sadness, don't be sad, right? So you can't, you have no choice there, right? So there seems to be that kind of thing. That's why he says Pramadin. Pramadin is tyrant, okay, is how he interprets here. Because it seems to be so balavat, okay. Okay, because it takes control also, okay. Then Drida is what he is translating as well-rooted, okay. And what are the roots of this cause? We already discussed the psychological aspects. Right? Swamiji talks a lot on that, the childhood. Okay. In fact, here he uses the term Kaunteya. Okay, Bhagavan later on to reply to him, right? Asamshayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena Grihyate. So he is a child of Kunti. So Swamiji says he is addressing not only the external child but inner child also. So the two childs have to be taken care of. One, as a child you are taken care of, and then you also have to take care of your inner child, is what he says, right? Because your mind is rooted on that inner child. See, all your psychological problem is because of that inner child only. Now how do you manage it is where that abhyasa comes. And what is that abhyasa is what he has so far spoken about, right? So you create a space between the surupa of your thought and your thought. See, that is the only way. Because like we said, there is no way for you to actually control your mind because it doesn't take your permission. So the only way is, first thing that you have to do is you have to accept. Acceptance is the first biggest thing. In fact, Swamiji gives an example, right? These alcoholics. If you want to treat the alcoholics, the first thing that you have to do is you have to accept that you don't have control, okay, on it. Only then you can start working on the problem. And even anger, right? You have to first accept that anger is there. Fear also, that's what he says. You have to embrace fear. See, how do you get rid of fear? Swamiji generally says, I embrace fear. I am not afraid of fear. You just say, keep saying that whenever that happens, then slowly you can start working on it. So similarly here also, the Bhagavan replies saying that yes, I agree. The mind has this issue, right? So that acceptance is the first step. Is what he says, okay? So this is a very natural question for Arjuna to ask, okay? That there is a problem, right? Even though you are saying, see, there are two things he said, right? Well, two things he understood. One is that I need to understand this jnanam properly, okay? Because he says, Samyena, whatever you have, sameness that you have said, I am not able to understand. So that is one thing he is expressing, right? That means he knows that he needs to have a proper grasp. Second is, he also understands he needs to have a mind which is stable and in control to a reasonable extent for the person to gain this jnanam. So both understanding Arjuna has. And they are validated by Bhagavan. See, some of these things, right, even Bhashyakara says, to prove certain things. So, Arjuna asks a question in the 3rd chapter. You are talking about, somewhere you are talking about jnanam, somewhere you are talking about karma. Okay, should I take sannyasa or should I do action? Okay. And then Bhagavan says these are for two different things and then goes on, right? Bhashyakara uses that to argue another point. There is one contention during his times which is called Jnana Karma Samuchaya. In fact, even most of the other sampradayas like Visishtadvaita and all these people, they also follow something very similar, saying that a sannyasi also should do karma. At least Manta Karma you have to do and all that. That is called Jnana Karma Samuchaya. Jnanam and karma have to go together. Okay. Because they say, Veda has said that Yavat Jivam Agni Hotram Juhyat and all that. So you cannot give it up, so they have to go together. Okay. Now, Shankaracharya is arguing in favor of the sannyasa. Right? So when the person is qualified, karma itself becomes an obstruction. Right? So he needs to argue. So in that context, he uses this to say that Arjuna is asking this question. But then, if Samuchaya was the intention, how would Bhagavan have replied? Okay, he would have said, you are asking this question. Question itself is wrong. You can't ask which one is better. He is asking, is sannyasa better or karma better? So then Bhagavan should have said, I have asked you to do both together. Okay, but you are asking this kind of a question. So you do it with that. And then he gives an example saying, if Ayurveda doctor, he didn't say Ayurveda, but that time, if the doctor has given for Pitta Prashamanartham, you have to take honey with curd or something like that. Even if somebody asks, should I take honey or curd, the person will reply saying, take them together, right? Not like this is better than that. So depending on how Krishna answered, he interprets the context of the question, right? Similarly here also, based on how Bhagavan is answering, we can understand what is going through Arjuna and how it has to be addressed, right? So he says, Asamshayam Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodurnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagyena cha Grihyate. So because this problem is universal, Bhagavan first step he acknowledges it. Okay, Sri Bhagavan, Lord Krishna Uvacha, He Mahabaho, Asamshayam, no doubt, Manaha Durnigraham Chalam. Tu, whereas, He Kaunteya, Abhyasena cha, Vairagyena cha, Grihyate. Okay. So here again people give some meaning, extra meaning for things like Mahabaho. Mahabaho means a person who is mighty armed. Arjuna has never lost a war. He was the only one, and probably Abhimanyu, and he did only one war, right? But he was killed in the other way. But these were people, even Bhima and all have lost one or two wars here and there, right? No battle was lost. Arjuna was such a great warrior. Okay. So he is addressed as Mahabaho. But they give a meaning, why in this context? See, he could have done any kind of Sabodhana, right? Why Mahabaho and in this context? So they give a meaning saying that it is not enough if you control external things. So if you are a Mahabahu, look at your mind also, right? And it's not look at your mind also, you are capable. He is actually prodding Arjuna that you are a Mahabahu. So mind also should be, you should be able to get some control on, right? And so he basically says Asamshayam. There is no doubt. Manaha Durnigraham. It is very difficult to control because there is no structure to it. It doesn't seem to have a structure. Swami says everything there is a structure. Okay, like he says, right? Because right now it looks, suppose suddenly I say coconut. Okay, I don't know why I suddenly said coconut now, right? But then so he says there will be some reason, right, in your unconscious, right, which led to talk about something. Why certain thoughts come? See, we say there is no reason, but obviously there is some reason, right, why it came, because there is something in your unconscious, right. So the mind seemed to be without any structure. That is what it means. So Asamshayam, Manaha Durnigraham, difficult to control, Chalam, agitated. But He Kaunteya, whereas He Kuntiputra, Abhyasena Vairagyena Grihyate. Okay. So so he uses two Sambodhana here. One is Mahabaho and then other is Kaunteya. Because he needs to address two aspects, right? See, where does mind go? Mind only actually gets attracted towards two things. Where it has a love for, it runs towards that. When you want to control, it just goes there. Because you like being there in that object of thought. Or where there is pain, it goes there because you have something to take care of. Okay, problem or pain. So these two things. Now he is going to say, he is saying one is Abhyasena, another is Vairagyena. What is Abhyasa spoken about here? Abhyasa is whatever he has so far spoken about in terms of looking at your Swarupa as the root of all thoughts and all that, right? So you are creating a distance between the object of thought and your Swarupa, which is your consciousness or whatever. But that moves you away from what? It takes care of only pain, right? Still, if your love for something, right, becomes overwhelming, this doesn't take care of that. So Abhyasa only mostly takes care of pain. Therefore, he adds another thing here saying Vairagyena. Vairagyena is what is actually value discrimination. Okay. Why do you love something? Does that object have the quality that you are actually seeking from it? Okay. So that is so mostly there is something called Shobhana Adhyasa. We call it as Shobhana Adhyasa. Adhyasa means adding something. As means to sit. Adhyas means make something sit on top of something. Okay. That is Adhyasa. So Shobhana Adhyasa means your value addition. I mean value which is not there, you are superimposing on it. Okay. The example that Swamiji gives here is of an antique piece. Someone sells you an antique piece. It is actually not an antique piece. It is just a brass or bronze thing which has been scratched a little bit to look old, and one ear is broken to make it appear as though it has been used, and then it is sold to you. Okay. Now you think it is an antique, you paid a heavy price and bought it. That is what is Shobhana Adhyasa. The moment you come to know that it is not actually antique, then all your problem starts, because by then you have already bought it. Okay, you thought it is antique and you bought. After you bought it, then you realize it is not antique, only a regular. It's like our marriage. That's why it's so the value attribution you did doesn't belong there. It only belongs to you. Okay. So then that is called. It is with everything, right? With money, with job. The recent one I have is, my daughter studied in Cambridge University. I have been telling her, you work in India, okay, later on you can work abroad. Now, because she studied in Cambridge, there is the whole social thing is, no, why India? So, she has studied there, she should practice in UK, because there is a social context, right? That most of the cases your society imposes a certain kind of thinking in you. That is your Shobhana. Most of our Shobhana Adhyasa is because you belong to a set thinking where money is the biggest thing. When you are the richest guy, that means you are respected. See, money has a certain quality, right? It has a buying potential. It gives you comfort. It gives you certain things. So we see both are a problem. Thinking that money only is everything is also a problem. The other thing here is whoever doesn't have money is the greatest, that is another problem we have, right? So he only walked all the time. So you should not go by car. See, this is another thing, right? So both are a problem, right? In the sense, you are not looking at it objectively. The whole Gita is about objectivity, right? Don't see it for the value it actually has. Anything beyond that is Shobhanadhyasa. So the whole Vairagya, the word has to be understood. The Vairagya is not Vishwamitra doing this to Menaka, right? That is not Vairagya. Okay, that is how we understand. Means developing kind of an aversion. That is how it is said, right? All this Patinatar and this and that, they go overboard. Okay, and to just for highlight only negative about something. That is also totally on the other side, right? So the Shobhanadhyasa is on both sides. What I am saying is there is only positive value. There is also sometimes negative value attribution to something. But being objective is you know exactly what you are going after, right? So that is what is considered as the Vairagya. Okay. So that takes care of the other problem, which is the you getting dragged by the love for object. Okay. So the other one we have already discussed enough. Swamiji talking about the distance between mind and I. Okay, mind is I am not the mind. Okay, the vritti is based on me, my Swarupa, but my Swarupa is not vritti, because even deep sleep as a witness I am there. Even in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, without thoughts I am there, right? In Swapna, I am there as a different person. So which means my existence, my Swarupa is always there, and everything is dependent on my Swarupa, but my Swarupa is independent of all of them, right? And the other thing is, see, one more problem, okay, not problem, one more typically people make conclusion in this Vedanta session is, you have to infer that I am everything based on the dream and all this what we say. That is not how it is. Right now, you are seeing me, right? So that I am the object, you are the subject, and this subject-object, the whole thing going on, right now when you are seeing this, there is only Advaitam, okay? It is not, you don't have to infer Advaitam, okay? Because even now when you are experiencing this, the experience, object of experience like we saw is not away from consciousness, the process of experience is not away from your consciousness, and you are also not away from consciousness, right? You can never separate anything from consciousness. Anything you see, whether it is space or time or object, you always see consciousness is always there in that, right? Because everything is nothing but the vritti. We have already said, space means there is space vritti. Object means object vritti. See, we keep telling the same thing because you have to keep telling the same thing so that it clicks at some point, right? So I know this is repetition, right? Still, we have to again look at it, right? Again and again look at the same thing. So when I say there is a wall, okay? So there are many things I am saying here. The wall means the wall is there is a sense of touch involved, sense of color and form involved that I am seeing, right? If I go and taste it, maybe there is a taste involved, right? I hear the sound and I hear the space in between it and me, and I know there is a time which is in. So all this is there, but each one of those is nothing but that consciousness or that vritti. So there is a rupa vritti, there is a shabda vritti, all this is vritti only. When I say there is a color consciousness which is there. So there is a color akara vritti, which is making me clinch something called color, right? So that vritti is a process which is happening in the consciousness that is making me see that color, right? But that doesn't mean I am the one who is imagining the color. We are not saying that. It is an Ishvara Srishti, it's not a Jiva Srishti, right? Whereas dream is a Jiva Srishti in a sense. This is a Ishvara Srishti. But in the Ishvara Srishti also, you can see that the color is nothing but color consciousness only. Okay. So the sound of wall is sound consciousness. So in every cognition, there is only that consciousness vritti. Okay. That now you are reducing everything to a consciousness vritti. So there are only two things. There is a consciousness and then there is a vrittitvam. We have already seen today morning, the vrittitvam is not a reality in itself, like a wave and water. Consciousness is like water, so vritti is like a wave. So now you take the vrittitvam out, what remains is only consciousness. See, that is the drishti. Once you recognize that, then the whole thing becomes you, right? So right now it remains a word, but as you keep hearing and this fact becomes clear, right? Then everything you can see is Jnapti Swarupa. Okay. So that is where you create the distance between I and mind. That's what I was trying to say. The object of thought and the content of the thought are different. So then that person is able to control the mind. That is the abhyasa. See, abhyasa here, don't think that then I sit and then keep on doing it. Keep on doing what, right? And then, so this dhyana is what is the abhyasa. Okay. And we have already seen this Kaunteya word. Swamiji says it's essentially to invoke the child inside Arjuna, right? And the other thing, see, we also spoke about this unconscious coming out, right? Here he is also giving another perspective. Okay, when you are studying Vedanta, see, till you come to study Vedanta, see, in fact, he is going to ask one question. Arjuna is going to ask one question. Somebody who has come to Vedanta, if the person doesn't go all the way, then what happens? Okay, we will see that. But before that, before coming to Vedanta, you are only looking at things which are outside. Okay. When you have come to Vedanta, you have started looking at yourself. So all the problems that you have so far not even handled will obviously come out, right? Because you have just started looking at yourself, right? So that is also part of the abhyasa. See, like unconscious coming out, once you are invoking who you are, then your inner child also starts coming out. Right? That is what he says. That's why he says he invokes Arjuna as a Kaunteya, because may you also take care of your inner child. And japa also is the same thing I told, right? Japa is also an useful tool because it breaks your chain thinking and makes you see, it makes you predict what is your next thought, because you are consciously bringing your mind to a same thought, right? Otherwise you can't predict what is your next thought, right? What am I going to say next sentence itself, we don't know. So that is where the practice of japa also is important, and doing a mantra also is important, right? All these, we are not dismissing that. All these are also part of the abhyasa only. Okay. Okay. Subjectivity. I'm just seeing if I have missed out anything that you brought out. Okay. I think that's all. Let's go to the next one. Yaf punaha samyata atmana tena. Okay, so then he talks about that person. Asamyata asamyatatmana yogaha.
Asamyatatmana yogaha.
Dushprapaiti me matihi.
Dushprapaiti me matihi.
Vasyatmana tu yatata.
Vasyatmana tu yatata.
Shakyo vaptumupayataha.
Shakyo vaptumupayataha.
Bhagavan continues. He says, asamyata atmana yogaha dushprapaha iti me matihi tu vasyatmana yatata upayataha avaptum shakya. So he says, yes, by the one for whom mind is not mastered, yogaha dushprapaha. Yoga here is mostly jnana only actually. Dushprapaha, difficult to gain. Iti me matihi. Here mati means Bhagavan's vision. Okay, that's why he uses the word vision. See, mati means it's not point of view. It is not an opinion. Opinion means you can contest. When Bhagavan says it's my mati, means that is a fact. It's a statement of fact. You can't contest. It's not possible to contest also, right? He is stating a fact. Okay, it is a universal fact. Which whatever he is saying is accepted even in today's psychology, right? Nobody can any of these things you cannot contest at all. Right? Yatata Vashya Atmana. Atma here means mind obviously. Yatata, the one who makes effort. Okay. Upayataha, through with the proper means avaptum shakyaha, it can be gained. Yatata means sannyasi actually. That is why sannyasis are called yati. Yati because they make effort in the right direction. Okay. That question ayatihi shraddhaya upetaha is what Arjuna is going to ask. The person with shraddha, but if he is without yati, if he is not making the proper effort, okay, there also he uses the word yati only. Then what happens to him? Okay, so the yatnam is very important here. Okay, because you need to be alert all through. See, mind is not one time you have taken care, and so you need to be always alert, right? So that until you gain the jnana, right? So that yatnam is part of the process. Okay. I think we have to conclude now. When did we start? 5 o'clock, right? Okay, so I'll just give a brief about this and then we close. So this only leads Arjuna to that question. Okay, in fact, as soon as Bhagavan has said this, he is going to ask the question, what if I have Shraddha but I am not able to do proper yatnam, then what happens to me? Therefore, here Bhagavan says, not only, even though the mind is difficult, but you must make effort. Right? Vasya atmana tu yatata shakyaha avaptum. So unless you make the effort, it is not possible. Just taking a sannyasa or starting Dhyana yoga and leaving it somewhere in between, you are not going to gain the moksha, is what he says. But then that gives a seed to Arjuna, then immediately, then what happens to me, right? I started. So he is going to ask that question naturally. what will happen to me type of thing. Okay. We'll see tomorrow. I think one more maximum, anyway we have two.
Two classes,
I
right?
think it's more or less ramping down, right? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om